Skylanders Imaginators is the well-disliked final entry in the Skylanders franchise. Like its many predecessors, it is an action RPG platformer where you, the player, are the protagonist. By placing magical figurines on the Portal of Power, you summon them to the realm of Skylands, taking on the title of Portal Master to embark on grand, increasingly challenging adventures, and ultimately saving the world from chaos. At this point in the series, it was a well-worn formula, leaving Imaginators with a heavy legacy to carry. Unfortunately, it does that legacy a powerful injustice. Previous games in the franchise, from Spyro's Adventure all the way to Superchargers, cared a great deal about the world-building, storytelling, and cohesion. They seamlessly made the player feel like part of the game world by using their narratives to build a bridge between reality and fiction. In Imaginators, however, that bridge crumbles. Characters rarely refer to you as the Portal Master or even acknowledge your presence in general, instead opting for a more traditional storytelling structure. This is universally for the worse. You're no longer an active participant in the events, you're just a spectator. To add salt to insult, the writing in general is far more juvenile and simplified compared to prior games. Characters are all around dumber, crazier, and lacking in depth. It's impossible to appreciate the characterization beyond an incredibly superficial level, even in the rare instances where characterization does exist. All the NPCs just feel like vehicles for tired jokes. Like, why bother writing anything clever, creative, or enchanting when you can just have a character shout, "Lava barf!" and call it a day, I guess? Even former greats like the ever-petulant Chaos himself are done dirty here. The overarching plot is just as messy and incomprehensible. Basically, mind magic, the building block of Skylands, has returned. Why? Who knows? Also, the Senseis, the most powerful Skylanders of all, have arrived as well. Why? Who knows? Previous games went to great pains to explain their backstory, gimmicks, and mechanics in a diegetic fashion. Like in Trap Team, you trapped enemies using fragments of the recently destroyed Cloudcracker prison. In Superchargers, the vehicles were used to re-establish a link to Skylands after Chaos destroyed the portal dimension. But in Imaginators? Screw it. Mind magic is back just 'cause. I do realize I'm being extremely negative here, but that's because there was so much potential. This game asks you to create your very own heroes, appropriately called Imaginators, using the sheer power of imagination, and then take those heroes into a fight against Chaos's own creations, battling over the fate of Skylands itself. And it throws in so many other cool concepts, like you finally get to see the ancient beings who designed Skylands, you steadily unlock new cosmetics and weapons for your Imaginators, and nearly every major character from previous games makes a return. But it's all handled in the clumsiest fashion possible. Even the plot progression is non-functional. It's often unclear what the characters' motivations are, and there's no justification for many of the locations you visit. Imaginators' writing and world building is a massive, embarrassing mess. Thankfully, we still have the gameplay, and hey, it's pretty darn good. Maybe the best in the franchise. To get the obvious out of the way, the Imaginators themselves are a creatively bankrupt but deeply engrossing gimmick, which, well, appropriately stoke the imagination. There's something so magical about placing a creation crystal on the Portal of Power and watching it pulsate with ethereal energy as you design your very own Skylander. There are a wealth of customization options to say the least, and you can easily spend hours perfecting your Imaginator's look, combat style, and personality. You even get to pick out your own ridiculous catchphrase. I grew immensely attached to these custom characters, so much so that I'm going to show you a quick montage of the Imaginators that my roommates and I made during our playthrough.
You are no match for the future.
The tide! I am one with rock and roll.
No one expects glitter! Of disaster!
I live for hugs!
Thankfully, regardless of whether you're playing with an Imaginator, Sensei, Swap Force Hero, Trapmaster Supercharger, or regular old core Skylander, the combat is the best it's ever been. There are so many options at your disposal, not just through the massive catalog of playable characters, but how they interact with enemies. Imaginators, by virtue of being the last game in a 6-strong franchise, inherits a ton of legacy content, and all of the old figures still work. Better than that, they work really well, because Imaginator's combat design is deceptively deep. You've got enemies who do certain attacks at certain times, each enemy type attacks differently, you can dodge any attack by moving out of the way, the goal is to strike during periods of opportunity when you're not in danger of being struck. You know, it sounds so simple, because it is, but a world of nuance springs forth from that simplicity. Depending on your character choice, you can knock enemies in the air to preempt attacks, use movement tech to dash through them while dealing damage, apply buffs or debuffs, fling them clean off ledges, just tank everything, or any combination of such tactics. It helps that the enemy types are vibrant and gorgeous, with heavily telegraphed attacks. Excepting some stinkers like the fire mages, everything can be reasonably avoided with skill and foreplanning. Imaginators has a lot in common with retro beat-em-ups, really. It's all about reading the room, anticipating your enemy's movements, then enacting a plan of attack or counterattack. You're making tons of micro-decisions during play, vying for the ultimate victory, and mistakes are costly. However, it would be nice if there weren't so many giant numbers and attack effects flooding the screen. That kind of makes it a little hard to see what's going on sometimes. Basically, the combat is good on its own, but its value increases astronomically if you have a large collection of Skylanders to play with. But let's say you're just not a huge fan of brawling, and you're more interested in the 3D platforming instead. Good news, Imaginators also has some of the best levels in the series. These are gorgeous fantasy locales with oodles of platforming gimmicks, most of which receive proper exploration through thoughtful design. In Fizzland, you'll be swapping between 2 world states to solve puzzles. With a simple button tap, trees begin dancing, blocks grow eyes, chemical vats become bounce pads. The entire environment shifts, providing new opportunities for exploration. Or, on Jetvac's battleship, you'll be steering airstrikes into enemies, piloting wrecking balls to blast away bombs, and contending with rotating seesaw platforms in a surprisingly challenging platform gauntlet. Or, hey, how about the Life Realm? You can play a quick game of boom blocks in between planting magical seeds, or ride the deadly rapids of Mushroom River, sort titanic tomes in the Academy Library, leap across floating castle ruins, fight a sewer monster, become the best gamer in Skylands. All of that probably sounds like, well, a theme park advertisement, and truthfully, it kinda is. Imaginators levels feel like big, beautiful fantasy theme parks. You'll drop in, gawk at the richly detailed and imaginative scenery, then solve a few puzzles and hop into some combat to hurl enemies to their doom. It all feels so joyful. This is a game for children, and it tries desperately to tap into that often elusive sense of childhood wonder. To great effect, I think. None of the platforming mechanics I described are particularly deep, but in combination with the presentation and atmosphere, they're still something special. I'll be replaying levels in this game over and over and over, just to soak in their vibe. Basically, Imaginators is just intoxicating to play. It so effortlessly enraptures and delights with its larger-than-life, luscious landscapes and wealth of charm. This is a world alive with mystery and magic, where anything feels possible. When I wasn't playing Imaginators, I was thinking about playing it. If I may end on an analogy, the previous Skylanders games were like classic animated films given interactive flesh. Imaginators, in comparison, is a lower budget, ambitious, but poorly written movie, which probably should have been direct to DVD. But hey, I love those sorts of films.